as hard as it was for me, I can't imagine how hard it was for Ellie. They held her hostage for 3 weeks in a hospital without her family.
On TV, we'll have to have some edits in it, but the piece on digital could be longer. So,
Sure.
okay, so let's begin. Jessica, I'm going to ask my first question to you. Our viewers may be familiar with your case and remember the arrest and the charges from 2023. Why do you think you were charged in the first place?
That's a hard question. I think it was some systemic issue within the hospital's electronic medical record systems. Once they flagged our chart, she just continued to be targeted over and over again as we tried to find doctors that would help her.
Okay, I know that some of the affidavit, which was the basis for a lot of our reporting back then, talked about some of those things. The accusation was, doctor shopping, and that your daughter received 28 pinpricks in a test that was not necessary. They also claimed that the diagnosis was ruled out multiple times. How do you respond to those claims that were in the affidavit?
Well, I mean, we can probably provide the actual where it shows in the records that the diagnosis was not ruled out. And as far, I don't know how to.
Maybe I can give a little background here, and if you want to,
go ahead, Mike. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So what we found, I mean, every single medical issue that Jessica was concerned about is shown in all of the medical records to be completely true. And the thing is, CPS knew this and law enforcement knew this. And some of the visits to the doctors that they complained about were actually part of a CPS investigation where Jessica was asked to go to a particular place and then got blamed for, quote, doctor shopping. That turns out that's one of their metaphors. That's one of the ways they accuse people falsely of Munchausen. Both of their criminal cases were based on this notion that Jessica was misrepresenting that her child had hypoglycemia and or gastroparesis. She was diagnosed with that at every single medical provider that saw her. She was often accused of having, when doctors did know that she was telling the truth, they would often say, well, it's because Jessica lied to them. And that's not true at all. The Jessica fought the pinprick over and over and over. That was the idea from a hospital that already knew that she had those issues and was who made her daughter go through this horrible, painful process. And then ironically, they charge her for the things she begged to not happen to her daughter.
Wow. Jessica, can you take me back a little bit through that then? Tell me what happened and how you were sort of trying to navigate the medical system and what was going on.
Well, for us, she has a lot of issues that are on the more rare end of what I guess doctors usually see, and they couldn't figure it out and they didn't know how to help her. So it's not doctor shopping. If the doctor can't help you, you have to move on. Like, she needs care, and it's teetering between, is it neglect to not take her, but is it abuse to take her? So you couldn't win in this situation. There is no win, because if you don't go, you get reported. If you go, you get reported. So whenever we were trying to find care for her, really it was just in the hands of the pediatrician. Who did she send the referral to? Cook Children's. So we went there.
Right. I'll give you a classic example of that. CPS, to their credit, before this round started, they did a 6-month investigation, incredibly thorough, of Jessica. And it was suggested by her pediatrician that she go to arguably the top gastro facility for kids in the country, which is Cleveland Clinic. So she goes up to the Cleveland Clinic, confirms everything, and then they later say she even was taking her child out of state to find a doctor that would agree with her, when in fact she was doing that in cooperation with an investigation that found that Jessica did, that all of these allegations were false. Then they went, when it was closed and it wasn't to their satisfaction, law enforcement push them to open it anyway. And law enforcement knew that she had those diagnoses as well. That's what's so insidious, is that you have law enforcement that can make CPS break the law when CPS is already good enough at breaking the law. It's frightening.
So I want to drill down into that. And I do want to say I reached out, of course, as any journalist would do, to Tarrant County Sheriff's Department, the Tarrant County DA, and the Department of Family Protective Services. All three agencies refused any sort of answer to my questions about the alleged mishandling of the case. They all just basically said, we respect the grand jury's decision. DFPS did say we can't discuss a case, period. So I've asked, and I'm not getting answers from them. So Mike, I'll ask you first, and then Jessica, I'll ask you. Why do you think this case was handled the way that it was? You're alleging it was handled in a very improper way. Why do you think that happened?
I think it happened because it's really looking like there is essentially an industry based around this allegation, specifically Munchausen's in Fort Worth. If you look at the stats, they prosecute more people in Tarrant County than everywhere else in Texas and probably the country combined for Munchausen. And they have they're trying to push this narrative that they're not overdiagnosing it, it's underdiagnosed. The rest of the world is doing it wrong. And they know how to market this into podcasts, into selling books, into giving seminars, into pushing the legislature to mandate training that they would provide. It's an industry. Why CPS would buckle to them, when, to their credit, there were good people inside CPS saying, please don't do this. We don't have a case. There is no Munchausen here. And then we would see their voice would disappear and someone higher up at CPS would say, no, we're going to do what law enforcement wants us to do.
So Jessica, as you were living it, did you feel like you could understand what was happening and why? Did you get any sense from prosecutors or investigators about why they were pushing this?
Yes. So for me, both on this side and where we were before, like as things were happening, it became really clear to me that the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office and the people involved in this had a political agenda with it. They wanted to push a bill to essentially criminalize Munchausen by proxy, but it's so broad that if you go to the doctor and you misstate something on accident, they can arrest you for that under their bill. So to me, it was political. They wanted to use my case to push this bill, and here we are.
How difficult have the last few years been for you, knowing that your face, a mugshot, charges, all of those things were out there? What was it like to live through that?
It was not easy. I don't think there's words to describe exactly what we went through with emotionally and even physically. But as hard as it was for me, I can't imagine how hard it was for Ellie. They held her hostage for 3 weeks in a hospital without her family.
In some of the chatter that we uncovered in texts and emails, they're talking about how they're aware that CPS policy is that if you have parents that you think aren't able to parent a child, you need to find relatives, friends, any alternative to foster care. And they specifically followed the instructions of law enforcement, who said, it's going to ruin our case. If you look at placement with a grandparent or someone else, that destroys our narrative. And they might be sympathetic to Jessica. So let's go in and get them. And without giving them notice to appear in court, they went and got a court order without any notice to us at all and hid her away from everyone. And it's obvious to see their plan was to remove her and have her health improve to try and prove their case. See, this family was horrible at raising this child. And what happened is they learned the hard way and at Ellie's expense that Jessica and Cleveland Clinic were doing it exactly right. This girl could have died. When I got on the case, she was in the 29th percentile of her weight, which is the highest she had probably ever been, because over the last few months, Jessica and Austin were doing such an amazing job following what the doctors were saying. She was gaining weight. By the time we had the first hearing that I showed up on, Ellie had dropped to the second percentile of her weight because of what they did. She had a series of seizures that she's never had before with her parents. So ironically, the people accusing families who are completely innocent of Munchausen's is they are exhibiting the exact same symptoms. They are harming a child, getting publicity out of it.
So I remember when this case came out from the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department, and they said the child has been thriving and is medically improving since she has been removed from the family. Are you saying that was not true?
I'm saying it goes further than that. It's not only not true, it's the opposite of true. And the medical records show it. It's objectively false. And because they had the medical records before we did, we know they know it's objectively false. If you notice, every story that was written as a result of their press release ends with saying something along the lines of, thankfully, there's a happy ending because now that she's away from her parents, she's finally gaining weight. Completely the opposite of true.
And if I can expand on what it was like, every visitation we had with her, we had to watch her wither away. Clothes that she left in were falling off of her, and we couldn't say anything. They took away Christmas from me because I asked her how she was doing. Like, I asked her if she was okay because she was crying in a visitation. We couldn't ask her if she was okay. We couldn't bring up the fact that she was withering away. Her hair was falling out. She was pale. We could see all of her ribs through her clothes across the room. And we were silenced. They were telling the media, oh, she's thriving, she's thriving. And it was so far from the truth that I don't even comprehend how they could say that in the first place.
Well, and we actually know some of the answers to those because part of the texts and emails that we have, it shows they're discussing what's going on with her, and they decide, how are we going to handle this? Hey, let's do a press release. They literally say that. This is designed to cover a huge mistake. I mean, a huge mistake that I think they, up until maybe a year or so ago, I think they thought they might get away with it.
How is she now? How is your daughter doing now?
Well, right now we have a amazing team who is really caring and attentive to everything that she needs, and they are taking care of what we need as we need it for her. And I couldn't be more thankful for the doctors that she currently has because they understand what she went through, they understand the trauma, and they follow her lead on things as things progress.
Can you tell me about just the conditions? What was she experiencing in 2023 which led to the diagnosis, and how she's doing now as far as just not only the name of the diagnoses, but also just, the symptoms that she's had to go through?
So the conditions that the whole case is based around, one is gastroparesis, and that's basically where your stomach is paralyzed or partially paralyzed and it just doesn't contract the way it should. So you basically feel like you ate Thanksgiving dinner all the time and you don't want to eat. So that was the main issue, is she would not eat enough. We never said she couldn't eat. She likes to eat. She loves food, but she doesn't eat enough. And that was the whole problem throughout the whole CPS case was, yes, she does eat. We never said she didn't eat, but she wasn't eating enough to grow and thrive. And then the other one is ketotic hypoglycemia. That one, I don't know how to describe that because the doctors don't even understand this one. It doesn't have an ICD-10 code. It's not even technically a condition. It's just a state of being. So it's thought to be caused by something else. So basically she goes into hypoglycemic episodes either from fasting, illness, or just sometimes randomly, and acidosis with ketones. I think that's how to describe it.
I'll tell you, one of the really devious things that they did is they picked things that like Jessica said, are conditions that you can be tested for and have it, and then you could be tested a day or two later and not have it, and then have it later. In other words, it's not like testing for something in your DNA. It's either there or it's not. This can come, both of them, they pick them because they can come and go. So they can take a snapshot of a time when she was not exhibiting any kind of ketotic hypoglycemic um, issues and say, see, she's lying. Look at this medical record. She doesn't have it today. It'd be like if she said, my daughter's having a headache and she has headaches, and they find one medical record that says, we asked her a couple weeks ago if she had a headache that day, and she said no. So Jessica's lying about her daughter having headaches. This was not accidental that they picked these conditions. It, it's hard to tell. So I think the why can differ from individual to individual. I think some people, money's a big deal. For some people, legacy, being a, savior of children. I think there's certainly money to be made off of it. In some of the texts and communications we have, they think they are such heroes. They are bragging to each other. We're going to be on 60 Minutes, essentially saying, because we saved this child from the mom, and that's how we're going to present it. That shows you at least one of those factors. Fame is driving some of this, and it's kind of a sick thing to think that there are people that make their money doing that, in their, enhancing their career, doing presentations around the country, getting paid to do trainings, whether you're a physician or in law enforcement, and you're doing it at the expense of kids.
Jessica, how does that feel to hear, that Mike is saying that you were basically being set up as sort of a scapegoat for them to try to elevate their profile?
Like we're being exploited. Like it's the definition of exploitation, and they exploited my child for it. And we're not the only ones. I mean, you can go through the media and see he's attempted this on other people too. But I was just the only one able to fight.
Why did you fight? Why did you fight so hard?
Because I didn't do anything wrong. Any normal parent would do exactly as I did. If no one was helping your child, what would you do? You would go to somebody else who would. And that is all I did.
Okay, a couple more things for you guys. Jessica, I do want to ask you one more thing about one of the allegations that was in that affidavit, because I think this is something that viewers would want to know about. It claimed that there were searches in your computer for, is lying to a doctor illegal, and how do you fix Munchausen or solve Munchausen by proxy, or fix, I'm not sure exactly what the exact word was, but did you search those things?
Yes, I did. And I'm not going to say I didn't, because look at the timeline. That was after they had taken my child and I had been accused of this. So why wouldn't I want to know more about what I'm being accused of? I mean, that's the only, I think anybody would do that. Go look it up. What are you being accused of? Why are you being accused of it? And is there a way to fix it?
Do you regret anything about, because I know you were active on social media talking about your daughter, and they seem to kind of have used that against you as well. Do you regret being open on social media about what you were going through?
No, because we're not the only ones. The social media is a great place for families who have children who are going through things that aren't necessarily well understood. There's not a lot of information as far as literature on any of it. There's not a lot of doctors that are able to help them because nobody understands what they're going through. And you find community in that. You find other parents who are going through what you're going through, and they understand, and you have just, I guess, more like family as far as people who are co-experiencing what you are. And most of them have also been accused in some way or another. So that is part of the issue. This is a systemic issue. Why are they targeting all of the parents of complex children?
Mike, I just today saw there is still a social media post from the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office from 2023 that has not been taken down, that shows Jessica's mugshot and asks for anybody who's had any dealings with her to come forward. That still exists out there. Do you feel like there should be any pressure on them to sort of correct the record? Or, I mean, now that the grand jury has spoken, do you feel like they are, they should take responsibility and correct the record?
Well, first of all, it's not just that the grand jury has spoken. CPS is the one who dismissed their CPS case. You can call that an admission that they were wrong or whatever. I doubt, having seen the cynicism in the conversations that they've had that we were able to uncover, these are the kind of people who are probably going to double down. And look, they have a right to say that, and if they want to keep that up and suffer the consequences of that, let it be. We're now in a situation where thankfully we can go on social media and point out this is how wrong they are. And I'd rather do that by people getting the right information than trying to shut them down. Having the fact that they're aware of this and they keep those posts up shows you who we're dealing with.
How do you feel about that, Jessica, as far as just that you're, again, I've asked you this a couple of times, but the fact that your mugshot not only was out there when this happened, but it's still active on a law enforcement website.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they can think what they want about me. They don't know me. They never interviewed me. They never interviewed any of my family. And the fact that they keep that up really just shows how low they're willing to stoop with this.
Is there anything I haven't asked you guys that you want to be sure to talk about?
One thing I would throw out is that one of the reasons that we are doing this, and we've Jessica and I and her family have talked about, one of these days we're going to get to let people know not just their story, but one of the things that I've learned is there are so many families out there in Texas who were wrongfully accused of, they weren't even necessarily accused of Munchausen, but they were wrongly accused in a CPS referral. And it makes it so much more difficult for those parents to get good help for those kids, because we have doctors who are afraid. There's no mechanism in Texas, if you were falsely accused, to get those off your records. Like, in some cases you can get your criminal records expunged, but not only does there not exist a mechanism to remove that from the records, but it's not a victimless crime. And it's not just the parents who are the victims. These are kids. There have been times many months ago where Ellie had a delay in care because you had a doctor that was aware of the media stuff and saw in the medical records and was like, do I treat this child or do I not treat this child? It puts doctors in a horrible position. And so if there's anything I'd like to add, it's that I'm glad that this issue's coming out. We spoke about this in front of the Senate committee about 2 months ago, and I was along with a lot of other parents who'd gone through similar things, and it was so nice to hear how receptive the senators were to understanding, hey, this is an issue, and we may have to fix it legislatively.
Jessica, I think I'll end on a question to you. I asked how your daughter's doing. I asked how you were doing when you were going through this. How are you and your family doing now that you've been, cleared by the grand jury? As your attorney said, the CPS case has been closed. How are you, and how are you as a mom to Ellie?
We're doing as well as we can be doing. It's hard to describe the feelings that we have about what happened and how to move forward from that. So we're just trying to figure out how to balance the medical issues that have been real the whole time and still are, and when do we take her to the doctor, and is the doctor going to treat her, and even just with ourselves, like the trauma from physicians doing this to your family, you don't even want to go to the doctor yourself anymore. So it's just hard to balance everything with all of the trauma, from doctors to home life.
And it probably will be forever.
Probably.